better than that. If you do the statistics, the numbers, there were 29 students up here. Hilliard has 16,000 students. The percentage of that 29 is 0.0018,152 of our student population. I congratulate the 29, but we need to do better. I'm here to talk to you tonight about 2 books that are in our library, one of them being Me, Earl, and the Dying Girl. All of these yellow sticky notes depict how many times, the word fuck is said. It also has multiple pages, content, talking about eating pussy. I don't find that to be educational at all. I can't figure out why it's in our library. Other questionable, what I believe to be questionable content, is ass licking, hairy dick, and a sentence of nothing but cock, shit, ass, fuck. We have to do better for our students. The second book is called Blankets. This is absolutely nothing but pornography. This has explicit photos of sexual acts, masturbation, penises, breasts, what have you. Again, I ask you, what educational value does this have? I'm an avid reader. I don't believe in book banning. What I do believe in is having educational value and content within our public schools. We know these kids can get this stuff on the internet. We know that they can get it elsewhere on their iPhones, their iPads. That doesn't mean that we need to be providing it and justifying it within our school libraries. Again, I think that we can do better. We do have a book review policy, or do we? We have a policy that's been in place for umpteen years. It has no teeth. It has no deadline to it. So until we do something about the content that's in our libraries, I guess we'll be here every month. And in regards to support for you guys, kind of on the fence, guys. I know that your job is difficult. I'm trying to understand and process the policy making and what you can and cannot do. But I think we have 3 new board members, and in the last 9 months, I'd like to see something. Thank you.
All right, next up we have Dr. I apologize if I mispronounced this, Dr. Aisha Khan Afghan, speaking about their Muslim family perspective.
Hello, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. My name is Dr. Aisha Khan Afghan, and I'm Pakistani. I have a son who attends Davidson High School, and I have been a member. Of the Hilliard community for over 20 years, as well as part of his large Muslim community. As Muslims, we value modesty, mild, polite character very much, and are also a community that is highly stigmatized. So it is my goal to share with the board and the district today that I wish to break the silence of our community over the patronization that we experience and the public school system, from the teachers' union, as well as from others who are more brazen about pursuing their causes in this platform. The district has estimated that 20% of the student population took the days off Islamic holidays in the past. This means if the Muslim community of Hilliard all choose to take our children out of the school district next year, the district would lose so much funding that it would be put in a budget crisis that would necessitate massive layoffs, including reduction in the teaching force and union membership as well. Our community has been patronized by those who have said that it is only, quote, mega white people who are against adults in the school building, prompting our students to talk to them about sexual practice. I personally have been patronized by the language arts department in particular, as well as the district and others at Davidson High School, when I have expressed concerns about my son's exposure to explicit content in the curriculum. What's most upsetting is that when I ask about figures in the district about the goals of the school curriculum, I'm only replied to with vague statements and platitudes, such as allowing students to expose their imagination or giving students a mirror of themselves in the curriculum. But when I ask for actual concrete details about what these statements means, I'm given no actual substance. When I further ask about the district's explicit plans to make good on their claims of respecting diversity and letting students see themselves in the curriculum as it pertains to Muslim students, families, and culture, again, with all due respect, I'm met with the same blank faces and responses. Perhaps the district itself is confused and divided over its actual goals and ambitions for students and families. And perhaps many in the district only work here to have a job. But as Muslim families, we have specific and defined values and outcomes that we wish for our children, who mean more to us than they do to you. So this district simply has a choice as to whether or not it will be willing to partner with Muslim families in nurturing our children according to our values and goals, or whether or not it will take us for granted, patronize us, and take advantage of our children. Thank you.
Okay, so I'm going to start with a warning. There will be some graphic language, so if there's a child, which I saw over here, I just want to give you a heads up. My name is Sarah, and I'm here to discuss the policy KLB, which reads, criticism of a book or other materials used in the district may be expected from time to time. In such instances, the following guidelines shall apply. 1. If a parent requests that his or her own child not read a given book, the teacher and or school administrator should resolve the issue, perhaps by arranging for use of alternative material meeting essentially the same instructional purpose. 2. The board does not permit any individual or group to exercise censorship over instructional materials and library collections, but it recognizes that, at times, a reevaluation of certain material may be desirable. Should an individual or a group ask to have any book or material withdrawn from the school, we are to use the following steps. Step number 1. The person who objects to the book or other material is asked to submit a written statement that documents his or her concerns. 2. Following the receipt of the formal complaint, the superintendent provides for a reevaluation of the material in question. And then 3. The superintendent reviews the complaint and renders a decision in the matter. Should the decision be unsatisfactory to the complainant, it may be appealed to the board. The board assumes final responsibility for all books and instructional materials, which it makes available to students, and it holds its certified staff accountable for their proper selections. The board also recognizes the right of individual parents with respect to controversial materials used by their own children and provides for the reevaluation of materials in library collections upon formal request. Did you guys notice what's missing from this policy? Answer: a timeline for accountability. At the September board meeting, I stood in front of you and read a sexual charged passage from a book and then submitted my formal request for reconsideration. Here we are, 2 months later, and the committee is set to meet next week. In this time, I have read book after book containing sexually driven material found within our libraries. This one passage from Call Me By Your Name reads, when we reached our balcony, he hesitated at the door and then stepped into my room. It took me by surprise. Take your trunks off. This was strange, but I didn't have it in me to disobey. So I lowered them and got out of them. It was the first time I'd been naked with him in broad daylight. I felt awkward and was starting to grow nervous. Sit down. I had barely done as I was told when he brought his mouth to my cock and took it in. I was hard in no time. We'll save it for later, he said, and with a wry smile on his face, he was instantly gone. This is why it's imperative that the policy committee review policy KLB and hold the district accountable to
to uphold the board's educational philosophies and goals as stated in the opening of the policy. What are our goals if this is the material being presented? Where is the accountability? Thank you.
Are you going to read from that book? Because we had that student just come back in. I just wanted to make sure we asked them. Okay.
But I'm not going to say, I will say words.
Okay. Just want to meet that parent and that student. Is that in the kindergarten? Yeah.
This is in the library, it's a book we were reading, again, just be aware if your children can't hear.
Speak in the microphone.
All right. Hi. So yeah, this is the book, Looking for Alaska, that's under book review. I'm gonna read a real quick passage, and then talk about this. So, Alaska is actually a person, not a state. Alaska read the sticker on top of the video, the BITCHES, a Madison County. Well, that's just the label. We ran into the TV room, closed the blinds, locked the door, and watched the movie. It opened with a woman standing on a bridge with her legs spread wide while a guy knelt in front of her giving her oral sex. No time for dialogue, I suppose. By the time they started doing it, Alaska commenced with her righteous indignation. They just don't make sex look fun for women. The girl's just an object. Look at her. I was already looking, needless to say. A woman crouched on her hands and knees while the guy knelt behind her. She kept saying, "Give it to me," and moaning through her eyes, brown and blank, betrayed her lack of interest. I couldn't help but take mental notes. Hands on her shoulders, I noted, fast but not too fast, or it's going to be over too fast. Keep grinding to a minimum. That's another passage out of this book that's been in review for over 2 months, and like Sarah stated, it is going to be reviewed next week, thanks to God. They'll make a decision. This is a third board meeting. Now there's a scheduling, but it still begs the question of whether this meeting would even happen as quickly if there wasn't so much communication and so much staying on top of this. I am doubtful, as there is no timeline again associated with the actual KLB policy of book review. So in all reality, it could take all year. One book could take all year to review. If there is no timeline, there's no forcing anyone to get back to the parents. There's no taking the book out of the library during the review process, which is an issue. This is still in the hands of our children the whole time it's being reviewed. Sorry, I lost my place. Our children deserve to have a system that gives them an idea of the content they are choosing, but there is nothing to give parents a chance to have meaningful conversations about the content, or to give parents a choice to filter the content and not allow their child to read it. Again, we are such a diverse community. We just heard from someone who is very diverse in this community. We are very diverse in this community. We are religions, there are cultures. We know that we are a diverse community. And having things like this with no way to filter out, no way to label, no way to give any warning to parents or students feels nothing short of disrespectful. It feels disrespectful to parents. We will continue to move toward a better process for identifying books with inappropriate or controversial content, assigning timelines to our policies, and making sure there's a way to communicate literature that may be offensive or sexual to parents and children, so each family can make decisions that respects and represents their values. Thank you, guys.
All right, next we have
Good evening. My name is Heather Crum. I'm a mom of 3. I'm also part of Moms for Liberty. One of the things that I would like to discuss tonight, actually the main thing I would like to discuss, is a book that's here in our library for the high school called Felix Ever After. I will warn whoever has a young child, this book is not as vulgar as the prior ones that were presented, but there are a few words in there, and I'm going to go ahead and say them because if this is put in the hands of high schoolers, as a 50-year-old woman, I will go ahead and go for it. I'm just going to read a small passage from this. When it's time to begin, Bex has us do introductions again, even though we already know each other, just protocol, I guess, and then begin the discussion. It's the 14th. The Pride March is in a couple of weeks, they say, but sometimes it can be difficult to find pride for ourselves. There is very little visibility for people of all genders, and many cisgender people don't believe transgender and non-binary people deserve the same rights. It's even more difficult for transgender and non-binary people of color, and especially transgender women of color. Though we have transgender women of color to thank for the Stonewall riots and the Pride March, they've often erased and ignored, even by other queer people within the LGBTQIA+ community. How do we find and cultivate pride for each other and ourselves when we're in a world that seems like it doesn't want us to exist? I wasn't really expecting a discussion topic that would hit so close to home. The words of Grand Queer 69 cut through me. You don't matter. You don't exist. I realized with a flinch of shame that I'd started to believe those words too. It's hard to feel pride for who I am when it feels like the rest of the world doesn't want me to. The topic clearly resonates with others in the room also. Sarah already looks like she's near tears. Gay cis men, especially white men, it's like they're one identity away from being what they consider normal, so that they hold that identity over us, enjoy the privilege and power in the little elitist group trying to push the rest of us away. Treat us like dogs. Just last week, a group of them laughed at me the second I walked into a bar. I wanted to ask them if they'd ever heard of Sylvia Rivera. If they realized they sounded just like those white gay boys who laughed at her too. Well, let me ask you a question, Zelda says. Why are you even looking for their approval? Fuck them, she says. Who needs to die? Who needs to deal with such snotty little shits? I'm not looking for their approval, Sarah says, obviously pissed by the question. It hurts. That's all I'm saying. It hurts not to be included, to be rejected, especially when it's by people you thought would understand.
Red Fire High School. Teach them a lot. Acceptance.
My name is Karen Beth. I'm a mom and a grandma, and we have both kids and grandkids who attend Hilliard schools. When we started our parenting journey, our older kids started into high school about the time that everybody was, the kids were starting to get phones, right? And one of the big things then was when sexting started, right? And that kids could be held criminally responsible, minors could be held criminally responsible for sending pictures of themselves, sending explicit wording, receiving those pictures from other kids. I think based on some of the policies I've seen in all the handbooks from all the schools in Hilliard, that could still be a thing. I've not looked into the legality of it. I know that the legal system sort of addressed all that at the time. I think I'm curious how in 10 years' time, we've gone from the kids can be held criminally responsible to adults providing sexually explicit material within the schools on government ground to minors. I'm super confused by that, and I have spent most of my career also in public service, and I would really want somebody to bring this kind of thing to my attention so that I could address it quickly. So this book right here is called Call Me By Your Name. I think Sarah already read from it. This subject matter has to do with it. The kid I'm going to be reading about is actually having a relationship with an adult man. So I'm going to censor my wording, but if there are minor children in here, please cover their ears. I got up and reached for one of the peaches, opened it halfway with my thumbs, pushed the pit out onto my desk, and gently brought the fuzzy, blush-colored peach to my groin, and then began to press into it till the fruit parted, slid down my C-word for phallus. If he only knew. If he only knew what I was doing to the fruit he cultivated with such slavish devotion every day, him in his large straw hat and his long, gnarled, calloused fingers that were always ripping out weeds from the parched earth. His peaches were more apricots than peaches, except larger, juicier. I had already tried the animal kingdom. Now I was moving to the kingdom of plants. Next would come minerals. The idea almost made me chuckle. The fruit was leaking all over my C-word for phallus. If Oliver walked in on me now, I'd let him suck me as he had this morning. If Marcia came, I'd let her help me finish the job. The peach was soft and firm, and when I finally succeeded in tearing it apart with my phallus, I saw its reddened core reminded me not just of an anus, but of a vagina. So that holding each half in either hand, firmly against my phallus, I began to rub myself, thinking of no one and of everyone.
Good evening, my name is John Osmondson, I use he, him pronouns. There are those in our community who seem to present gloom and doom and that the sky is falling in regards to Hilliard City Schools. That we have out-of-control teachers and even enablers in administration who are encouraging some kind of free-for-all in our district. Let me be on the record as a parent, stakeholder, and faith leader in this community that I'm full of hope. I'm full of hope for our city school district. I'm full of hope as I watched in August the presentation on the district commitment plan that seeks to elevate every student without exception, from pre-K through graduation, to be the best they can be and prepared for whatever their next steps in life might be. I'm full of hope as just a few weeks ago I saw a report on where the school district stands in regard to the current state report card. While by no means perfect, I saw hope that while it was evident that COVID caused struggles with the graduation rates and that some issues still with early reading, our educators are closing the gap. They're working hard to resource and assist every student without exception, so that this time next year we can celebrate even greater accomplishments across our district, even more merit recognitions. I'm full of hope as more parents, stakeholders, and educators seek to find more ways to work together to support the growth, academic, emotional, and social, to foster our most precious gifts of our community, our children. I'm full of hope as I use my rights as a parent of students in this district to engage, ask questions, seek information, open dialogue, that everyone from the central office to my building administrators and support staff to my kids' classroom teachers have all been responsive, supportive, and willing to engage in conversations around my children. Together we've discussed what we believe can help them best grow and succeed, and I have chosen to engage with everyone who I've chosen to engage with has welcomed my engagement around the well-being of my child. I'm full of hope as I get to sit in and engage in the process of our community-wide strategic design team. I enjoyed meeting other parents and educators, community members who are excited to shape the path forward for our kids who will one day soon graduate from this district, prepared to face the rapidly changing world. I'm full of hope that this community can once again stop majoring in the minors and focus on coming together to set a trajectory of success for all students, without exception. I'm full of hope as I join with others in our community who hold a shared belief that Hilliard Schools can and will forever be an environment where students are driven to succeed while pursuing other unique interests in a safe, welcome, respectful environment that fosters a sense of belonging and cultivates feelings of acceptance. I'm full of hope that together we'll support evidence-based policies, face disinformation head-on, and find practical solutions to problems and not solutions looking for problems. Members of the Board of Education, I'm full of hope. I hope you're full of hope too. Thank you for your time.
Good evening. Fascists, racists, bigots, MAGA homophobes. Just a few names. Majority of this crowd is called as parents that are simply fighting for the right of our children, especially our biological female children. I'm going to quote a couple of pieces from a Facebook post from the president of the HCS Union. Quote, I think it's important to share that the initial photo of the badge that is creating a huge ordeal was taken by a substitute in a lower elementary classroom. Quote, the district will not blacklist her from coming to our schools, but you can say you don't want her in your room. Her name is, and I do highly recommend not welcoming her. Those that wrote this message, those that support this message, and those that called us inappropriate names are the same crowd of people advocating for SEL, DEI, and CRT. Correct me if I'm wrong, but this doesn't sound like a crowd who truly cares about emotions, diversity, and inclusion. I keep on hearing all children should be protected, but it seems like we are forgetting about children that do not identify themselves as part of the LGBTQ+ community. Can you imagine what a biological female, high schooler, or even a middle schooler would feel like sharing a changing room with a biological male? As children, it's already awkward sharing a changing room with the same sex. Can you imagine how physically and emotionally uncomfortable it would be sharing a changing room with the opposite sex? Let's talk about sports. Like I mentioned at the last board meeting, I've been coaching biological females and males on nutrition and exercise for 12 years. I consider myself an expert on building and maintaining strength, muscle, and performance. 6 days per week for 12 years, I've witnessed the strength, muscle, and performance difference between males and females, and it's not even close. Allowing biological males to compete against biological females within women's sports completely takes away from the women's rights movement that everyone in this room supported. I'm a God-fearing man because of my faith It's already determined that I hate anyone who is lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, and queer. That is wrong and ignorant for anyone to assume or believe this. Yes, I don't agree with your lifestyle choices, but I still love and care for your health and safety. If I ever see you being physically and emotionally bullied, I will be the first one to help you. Our main objective is not to fight you. It's to fight for the rights of our children, parents, and guardians. We are perfectly okay with protecting and supporting the rights and health of all children, but we do not agree with the unhealthy and unsustainable ways it's trying to be done. We want employees of Hilliard City School District and those who have ingrained themselves into the district to be held accountable for their actions that break school policies created by the Hilliard City School Board. Also, we want transparency, and we want Beth Murdoch's transparency amendment to be considered, reviewed, and approved. And then we want to meet at midfield, shake hands, and start focusing on improving the physical, mental, and academic health of children within Hilliard City School District. Thank you.
Well done.
Thank you for allowing me to speak in the extended time. I do appreciate it. And I am Scott Miller. I use he, him pronouns, and my son attends Darby High School. And I have three things I hope to get them quickly. Number one, I just want to be so grateful tonight to express my sincere gratitude for the Darby cross-country coaches, John Margassetti, Coach K. They had 29 boys, including my son, on their team this year. And additionally, I want to thank Coach Chris Hampton, who's the coach of the girls' team. And my son was one of the few students who actually ran for the boys' team, and he was socially, emotionally engaged and friends with everybody on the girls' team. The night that they did the run-a-thon, it was Maggie who kept coming up behind him and cheering him on. So sorry. These three coaches allowed him to build friendships across both teams, and these coaches exemplified the diversity and inclusion in sports that I never had. And thank you. The second item is that in the prior two public comment sessions, I have learned so much. And I want to thank the diverse group of people that are commenting that represent all the people of this community. As I continue to listen and hear them tonight, and one of the things that I learned last time, I've learned so many things, the panorama surveys. I brought my kiddo with me. He's like, Dad, it's because of those surveys that they fixed the clocks. There's 3 surveys, he told me all about them. I didn't even know they existed. It's something simple. And there's people that are advocating against them, and he's like, Dad, the clocks wouldn't have gotten fixed if those surveys weren't there. He says that the surveys are about him to ask him how he's doing with school, ask him about his classes, his topics, his peers, and he said there was no issue. He was grateful for it. And I'm grateful for that opportunity for him to have a voice in school. The discourse that is occurring here gives the students, the people, a tangible option, diverse opinions, and this is what we are doing, is working together for all of the students' benefits, and I know all of you are working also to include my son in your policies, and I appreciate that. And third, I am just here tonight to express sincere gratitude for the openness. Ms. Murdoch had provided public response to the State Board of Ohio Education